Chads versus the casuals. This classic matchup is now more uneven than we've ever seen in recent history with Tarkov's big armor buffs. But does this mean that leg meta is back? Today we're going to investigate whether the 6 best ammo types in this category can compete with high-level players without having to invest in the meta guns and ammo, whether you simply don't have access to them or are just looking for something interesting to do in the late game. In 6th place on our list, we have Magnum Buckshot. Typically for leg meta, we're looking at a combination of high damage, high fire rate, and low recoil, and this first entry bucks the trend by only having one of the 3. But by God does it make up for it, with Magnum Buckshot's capacity to deal up to 400 damage per shot due to 8 50 damage pellets. This makes it an easy 2-shot when in close proximity. And as an interesting side note, it can one-shot unarmored heads with a single pellet if you get lucky on the spread. This counts for the neck hitbox too. You might naively assume that 2 hits to the legs would get you a potential damage of 800, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that. These days, once blacked, legs only pass through 70% of the damage received to the rest of the body, which reduces the effectiveness of the leg meta style considerably and means that we have to do a lot more damage than in the past to get a kill. This especially hurt those weapons with bullets on the lower end of the flesh damage spectrum like the PPSH, but for Magnum, it doesn't really matter that much. In general, the worst case scenario for leg meta is hitting one single leg only. This way, you remove the 65 HP of the limb itself, leaving 375 for the rest of the body, and then we have to remove all of that with a 30% damage reduction. This is equivalent to a further 536 raw damage, so 601 total. The ideal scenario is to black out both legs first with 65 damage each, as this deals 130 damage to the body with no reductions. Then we have 310 left that we need to remove with the reductions, which is equivalent to 443 raw damage. This makes the total in the 2-leg situation 573 damage instead. For a full PMC then, we'll need to hit somewhere between 573 and 601 raw damage to get the kill, which as we saw with Magnum, it can deal with just fine. So outside of having to be quite close to your target, the other major downside to Magnum Buckshot is that it's only available on Jaeger 3. If you don't have it, Express, 7mm and 525mm are all one step lower, but very similar to each other. In theory, these can deal a 2-shot kill with a total damage of 630 for Express, 624 for 7mm and 592 for 5.25, but practically with damage drop-off, and the drop-off is brutal for 12-gauge pellets, it's much more likely to be 3 instead. Technically speaking, 525 has more damage after 10 meters than the other 2 because it's the slowest and suffers from the drop-off the least, but the difference is relatively minor. Combined with the fact that obviously not all pellets will connect, makes these 3-shot at least if you're not stood directly on top of your opponent. One small benefit here is that these 3 do actually have a little bit less recoil than Magnum, because Magnum increases the recoil of your shotgun when you use it. Weapons-wise, previously I would have gone for the MP153. However, I think in the new ergo-centric world, the MP155 is a solid contender, either modded or unmodded. Both weapons are easy to buy, either from the Flea or on Jaeger 2, and typically with leg meta shotguns, you don't really need to mod them. A simple laser will do to keep point fire broadly in the middle of the screen. The advantage then of the 153 is that you can just attach a sprot to it and get a laser, whereas with the 155 you need the space shotgun looking parts to mount one, although these are pretty cheap. The Saiga 12 is also a decent choice depending on your personal preference of tubes or real magazines. So what about slugs? I'm not really a fan of slugs personally, but if you want to go down that route then probably choose Superformance for general play. These are only Jaeger 2 and are the fastest slug. They lower the recoil of your weapon and they have the best accuracy of all of them, with lots of leeway on the damage too for a 3-shot kill. You do have to watch for the zeroing issues that come with Superformance due to its high velocity, i.e. it shoots higher than you'd expect, but unlike something more middle ground with lower damage such as the copper slugs, Superformance is still a 3-shot up to 70 meters. With the leg damage changes that we just looked at, RIP slugs don't actually 2-hit anymore even at point blank, so there's not really much point using them now over Superformance. In number 5, we have SP7 for the 9x18 weapons. This deals 77 damage and requires a fairly chunky 8 hits to kill in all cases, which is why it's required to have a fast-firing weapon to utilize this. Fortunately, 9x18 weapons are pretty speedy all around, with the ever-popular Kedda B at 900 RPM that has extremely low recoil, as well as the Clin at 1000 RPM coming at the expense of increasing the recoil a little bit. The high RPM and recoil on these guns makes up for the somewhat lower damage on this bullet, but with a maximum magazine size of 30, it's not the perfect weapon against more than one opponent. What does make it quite appealing though is the extremely low cost, as well as the very high accessibility for low-level players. You can get the gun from the Flea or Prapor 1 in the case of the Clin, and Prapor 2 for the Kedda B, with 30 rounders and SP7 itself on Prapor 2 as well. One advantage of the Clin in particular is the ability to add a rail, enabling the addition of a laser, so it's yet another personal choice whether you prefer to use the silenced Kedar B with its minute recoil but iron sights, or the faster firing Clin with the possibility to add a micro red dot and a laser for better point fire. If I was going to seriously run either of these two weapons, I'd be very tempted to take two in order to mitigate the small magazines. You know what they say? Switching to your other Kedar is faster than reloading. In number 4, we have the 9x21 PE cartridge with 80 damage. This pairs with the SR2M, a weapon that is very similar to the Kedar and the Clin in some ways, but much more unusual to see used. At 950 RPM, it has an extremely fast fire rate in between that of the Clin and the Kedar, but suffers from the same issue of small magazines with 30s as a maximum. As the damage itself isn't actually much higher than SB7, this one is also an 8-shot to kill to the legs, but the gun overall is more modular. It uses the KP SR2 sight by default and can be modded to accept many of the other hollows and red dots, as well as lasers and flashlights of your choice, and it's easily suppressed. Although the PE ammo is on Prapor 1, the gun itself is locked behind Prapor 3. Even though you can get this easily on the Flea, the bigger problem is the Prapor 3 lock for the 30 random max. Fortunately, most of the SR2Ms come with 30s by default, so if you're struggling, you could always buy them off the Flea with the 30s and then relist them back up again after taking out the magazine. The SR2M overall is a nice little shooter. It's not usually used for leg meta, but it can work as something a little bit different. In number 3, we have the P90, and specifically the R37F cartridge. With 98 damage, this takes our TTK down to 7 or 6 shots depending if we just hit one leg or two, so probably 6 in most cases. With the P90's 900 RPM, this is certainly comparable to the other decent choices, but with the added benefit of 50 round magazines by default. For leg meta, this is amazing because you do really want volume of fire to secure kills. There is nothing worse than enemies limping away on 20 HP because you couldn't get quite enough shots on target. This is another one that is fairly easy to get on the Flea, and there's a decent barter at Peacekeeper 2 for the SBR version as well. The limiting factor here is Mechanic 3, requiring at least level 30 and Gunsmith Part 9 to unlock the R37F ammunition. R37X is easier to get on Mechanic 2, but with only 81 damage, this takes the TTK from 6 hits to 8, so only use it if you have to. I have previously used the P90 to showcase why leg meta was tough to win with in the past, because before the armor system changes, your opponent typically only needed 2 or 3 shots to the thorax with 7.62 BP or M62 ammo to kill you when you were wearing class 5, which is all that anyone really wore last year. Since then though, with the armor plate system and the massive buff it got recently, along with the availability of class 6 plates, even good bullets like SIG Hybrid, M62 and 7.62 BP take 5 hits to the chest through class 6 plates with class 3 soft armor behind them. This leaves a 6-shot leg meta not all that far behind, closing the gap significantly versus any of the old systems that we've had since the Black Limb changes. So in second place, we have the 9mm RIP cartridge, usually paired with the 9mm Vector. With 102 damage, this is very similar to the P90 with a 900 RPM fire rate and 6-hit TTK, with the similar benefit of 50 round magazines. The difference between the 9mm 50s though and the P90s is the mag packing speed. Those for the Vector are significantly faster to repack in raid, which as anyone who's used the P90 knows is a massive pain. The 9mm Vector is fairly expensive at base, just over 90k from Skier 3 after Vitamins 2 and almost always more than this on the flea market. Although you can add a few parts, there's no real point trying to improve the recoil, so maybe just slap on an ergo increasing grip, a sight, laser and decide if you want a suppressor or not. However, the deal breaker with this weapon for me is that RIP ammo is craft only on Workbench 3. You have to complete Mechanics Quest fertilizers first, and you can only make 120 every 4 to 5 hours or so, which dramatically limits how much you can use this gun. If you're super desperate, in theory you can buy it from the Flea too, but as it costs about 2,000 rounds per bullet, this gets real expensive real fast. The next bullet down, Quakemaker, isn't bad on Peacekeeper 4, which takes it back up to a 7 or 8 shot, but at that point I think I'd rather just use the P90. So technically, the 9mm Vector is very good, but simply due to ammo access, it doesn't end up at the top of our list. There is another weapon that gets an honourable mention in this category, which is the Glock 18C. However, due to the erratic recoil on this pistol, it can't really compare to the traditional weapons. With an even higher fire rate of 1200 RPM, this is the highest in Tarkov, so it can technically take down targets extremely quickly, but of course, you have to actually hit them with the bullets. The Glock 18C takes the mantra accuracy by volume to its extreme, and it can be extremely fun to use, just don't expect to win with it most of the time. So finally, number 1 goes to the other Vector, the version chambered in 45 ACP. The fire rate on this one is a fearsome 1100 RPM, just 100 shy of the Glock, and 45 RIP is one of the most powerful flesh rounds in the entire game with 130 damage. This gives it a 5-shot TTK, which is the same as a spear shooting hybrid through a class 6+3 armor combo. It just does it nearly 40% faster. This vector is slightly more jumpy than its 9mm cousin, although it's still very controllable and has the single major downside of 30 round magazines being the absolute maximum that you can buy. With the fire rate that the gun has, this is quite limiting for the weapon in many ways, but unlike with 9mm RIP, you can buy 45 RIP directly on Mechanic 4 after completing the quest Broadcast 4. This makes it much more usable, as it's pretty much one magazine per kill with this gun. Even with this, it takes a few trader cycles to be able to stockpile enough to use it for more than a couple of raids. Interestingly, given the high damage of this caliber in general, the second place ammo Hydroshock still does 100 damage, making it comparable to the best bullet for the other weapons. It would probably be sensible to stack magazines to stretch out your stockpiles of 45 RIP if you've not purchased much of it previously, and in fact, using the new ammo presets, you can theoretically do 4 rounds of RIP and 1 of Hydroshock without disrupting the 5 shots to kill. Something to think about doing, given it's so easy to set up now. Lastly, here's the full list containing some of the other off-the-wall options that I didn't mention, like the 416 with Warmageddon or the Ash 12 and its 4 hits to kill, because I think it's just too uncontrollable and slow, but maybe it'll give you some fun ideas to try out yourself. So next, let's go and check out a few raids with Flesh Meta in action. Make sure I'm actually on full auto. I love the fire rate, it's so dramatic, yeah. What was he doing? It's a bear! It's a level 50 bear! We're out of here. Oh no, it's Tagira. Not down here or something, is it? Oh, Jesus. Ow. Got to draw him into the right spot. I don't know how I killed him, but I did. That was pretty touch and go with the old Vector, with the rip rounds. I was trying to shoot him in the arms. I was like, let's just shoot this man in the arms and hopefully he dies. It's this guy. He's also level 20. Okay. Should we try and kill Tagilla? Is Tagilla just going to kill me? Do I do enough damage with rip? How much health does Tagilla have? Can somebody remind me? 1220 HP. Very roughly, that's going to take 1220 divided by 0.7. That's like 1,700 divided by 130. It's going to be about 14 shots. Thing is, that's a lot. As far as Tagilla's concerned, that's a lot. Where actually is he, though? That's more of the issue. Where is Tagilla? It's half a mag. It is. Are these regular scavs? What's that skiller here? Okay. Alright, boys. Well, the vector frickin' rips, my friends! Okay. Oh! Oh, it's too much fun. It's too much fun. Oh, dear me. He's done. Right, where's everyone else? Ah! Interesting. Alright, let's get ourselves slightly better ship shape here for a minute. We're low health. Come on, boys, let's go! Is there one more? Nope. They're all dead. Usually you have to win. It's not just like win your 1v1. You then have to win the ensuing, like, third-party fight that comes, right? Because people on labs to PvP. So even if you're trying to skulk around and do stuff, like, it depends what you're trying to do. What is this man doing? He's getting his legs carved up. That's what's happening. What's this got in it? M62 Tracer. An interesting choice. Oh, God, the ergo on that is horrendous. 40 seconds is a long time. Oh! Vicious. Shush. Shush, I'm trying to listen. Shush. Yeah, what's funny is that you see the SR2M being used all the time in Arena. That sounds like Tagilla. Why? I haven't seen somebody run down glass corridor for a long time. This can be scav. Oh. Seems pretty good to me. Didn't really think that was a kill, but never mind. How'd you get these lobbies? Don't know, man. Right, let's see. No Kappa? Nah. I don't bother going for Kappa. Where is he?
Еще не стреляй.
Who's he talking to? Void Russian? Who's he talking to though? You killed this guy. You killed Tagilla. Well, that was more than I was hoping for. Ow. It doesn't work from long ranges, that's for sure. That's one of the big problems, I think, with this kind of gun, with the shotguns. You have to be quite close. Like, that was too far for the... What is it with the Timmy Central? What's the scout? Like, I actually find AP20 slugs quite underwhelming most of the time. They're not even like a very good cartridge against class 4. Oh no, they're in there. Maybe they are underground. That wasn't particularly my finest. Is that underground? Right, let's see if we can just get this person. Wait, where are they? Are they up in the are they up the top or? Where are they? I'm confused. Are they like up here? Like up here or something? On the balcony? In Skybridge maybe? Oh, were they in here? Oh, there he is. That's Scav? No. Oh, that was a Scav, actually. Ow. Yeesh! Run out of meds in its entirety. We'll get back to full health and then we'll wander around. The problem with factions, you fluff about too long, the players have start swarming. Yeah, it's true. How close was I? You can rewind very slightly in the stream. You were very close. I was very, very, very low HP. As usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.